Everybody, welcome back into another edition of Prime Sports World. I'm Coach, your host, David On Point Huffin. Right there is my co-host, Mr. T.J. Hopkins. Today's episode of the Prime, we are continuing our NFL offseason previews. This time, we're swinging into the AFC East. If you want to go back to any of our past content, it's all on the YouTube channel. It's all on our Facebook page. It's all on our Twitter. It's all on our Twitch account. So go check out all of that stuff. And also, you can catch us on the Huddle Sports Network. You can find it on all your Roku-enabled devices. Happy Monday, TJ. How are you?
Oh, it's Monday. I say it every Monday.
Can you hear me? I can hear you. I've had a rather crappy Monday.
Yeah, what the mechanic say?
So my water pump broke somehow. So it's gonna be a plethora of money. So
would it just be better to get a new car?
No, because I just bought this car like 2 months ago. It's only gonna be $800. I mean, it's not a plethora, but it's still more money than I would have liked to have spent. The amount of money I wanted to spend was zero.
Well, yeah, that's not gonna happen.
Thanks, TJ. I'm aware. AFC East preview. Let's talk about it. Let's swing right into the first team in the division actually the weakest team in this division, the New England Patriots, as they made a head coaching change, as they fired Gerard Mayo. They have brought in Mike Vrabel. They have the 4th overall pick in this upcoming draft. They have some decent names when it comes to free agency. None of them really all that movers. I mean, Jacoby Brissett, Austin Hooper, Joey Sly, pretty good kicker. I'm not really concerned about any of the other guys. Jonathan Jones, decent corner.
Stupid, strong leg in Joey Sly.
Yeah, but he can never seem to make it anywhere. He's not as accurate as you'd like him to be. $128 million in projected cap space. They have the most cap space by far. Jonathan Kraft, team president, Eli Wolf, GM. How do the Patriots approach free agency and the NFL draft?
$128 million. That's going to be very enticing. It's different if, again, you're in a new era, right? Brady ain't walking through that door. Belichick ain't walking through that door. You have to, you could be a bit more frugal. Not frugal. You could be a bit more, you move freely with the money when you had Tom Brady, A, taking pay cuts to get people to come, and B, you had Tom Brady. When you approach free agency and you're the New England Patriots, once you go through your list of guys that you have to take care of first, what's your sales pitch? Like in the past, it was, hey, we got Tom, we gonna win 12 games, and we either going to the AFC Championship or we going to the Super Bowl. You gonna have a chance to win. What's the sales pitch now? What's gonna convince a free agent? I don't even know who the top free agent is. What's gonna convince a free agent to come to New England for the long haul? By the way, that's because it's like, hey, we think we have our guy in Drake May. We think we have him. Vrabel's at the helm now. Like Mike Vrabel didn't really have a bad time in Tennessee till towards the very end. Mike Vrabel still can say, hey, I took Ryan Tannehill to 2 AFC championships, or 1 AFC championship.
One AFC title.
One AFC championship. And if I can do that with Ryan Tannehill, what can I do with this, that, and the third? So obviously, of that 128, I don't see anybody on this list that I don't see anybody on this list that I want to keep. outside of maybe Jacoby Brissett because hey, that's all reliable. If Drake May gets injured or he's just not playing well, Jacoby Brissett's gonna come back in and play well enough to keep the ship afloat. But Jacoby Brissett is also not gonna challenge Drake May for the job. If you get what I'm saying. So, and Jonathan Jones, he's a corner, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I see what
he's a good football player, but
he is. I see what he's talking about. Austin Hooper, thank you for your service.
Yeah, he was fine last season. Nothing really needle mover at any kind.
Yeah,
Dietrich was a solid player for them last season. They probably keep those two guys if they can get them fairly cheap. But
and so like if you go to 4, if you're at 4, so our good friend Christian Simpson has released his first mock draft for the Daily Blitz blog. I gave you a shameless plug, Christian. And if I can go to it, he it's a pretty chalk first mock draft, which is kind of expected. He has Cam Ward going first, but to New England he has Travis Hunter at 4 going to New England, which kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, you get a Swiss Army knife player.
That's probably
play in
ideal.
the play corner or wide receiver. I mean, he addresses a bunch of needs that they have currently.
Right, and then you go from there. But then again, like I've said so far, if you get an offer for that 4th overall pick that you just can't say no to, take the offer. Unless you're that sold.
As we've talked about multiple times about other teams in the NFL, the New England Patriots are out just a Travis Hunter or a Will Campbell away from being competitive this season.
Competitive again, right? And so you go into this thing like first off, like what's being swept under the rug again, and we touched on it last season was the whole Gerard Mayo fiasco of how his contract was set up. It was like make him the head coach or you lose him.
Go. Yeah.
Like that, and that made no sense because the plan was to let him have his 1 year and then move off of him anyway. Which, if that was the case, you should have just let him go. Forget the contract. If that's the case, then you should have just let him go. Mike Vrabel comes back in, and then not only does he come back,
Josh McDaniels came back as the offensive coordinator. I don't know who the defensive coordinator is. Probably Matt Patricia, knowing this,
and that's kind of like our big gripe with New England is y'all fail to go outside of the family. But their argument is whenever we do go outside the family, it don't work. Like it doesn't work for us when we go with anyone not in the that's not involved.
Terrell Williams is now their new defensive coordinator. I don't know anything about him.
That's a Terrell Williams. I'm gonna have to look him up.
He was the defensive line coach, run game coordinator for the Lions last season, and he was with Mike Vrabel for 5 seasons
in Tennessee.
In Tennessee as defensive line coach, assistant head coach, defensive line coach, as various other defensive line coaches. And as a team that needs defensive line coaching, it makes a lot of sense to bring in a guy like Terrell Williams who has that kind of experience.
And Mike and he knows Vrabel. Vrabel knows him. Yep. So it's it's.
I think we also kind of like the number one, like when we talk about how they need to get weapons on this offense. I mean, Roger Stevens and Tony Gibson, I think are okay at running back, but I mean, Hunter Henry is your number one pass catching option in the passing game. It's not going to fly. If you're going to like Kayshon Boutte kind of came out really nicely towards the end of the season, kind of showed that flash that people were really hyped about him in college. But Demario Douglas didn't take the step forward that many people thought he would. Jalen Polk was kind of a waste of a second-round pick, at least in his first season. Javon Baker didn't play well. Like they just had a lot of guys that just kind of underperformed. This offensive line isn't any good. And
Which is also why like a Will Campbell at 4, sorry to cut you off, makes a lot of sense too. So like if you go Will Campbell at 4, that no one should hate that. Absolutely no one should hate that unless you spend money well,
unless you're the Bears or something, you know.
well yeah, but like with 128 million in cap, you should be super aggressive in free agency. Like
100%. I mean, you should be offering more money than players that are worth. Like we talk about the top free agents. I mean, T. Higgins, they just announced today that he's going to get the tag for the second season in a row. Trey Smith, I think the Kansas City Chiefs also said they're probably going to
they tagged him. Yeah, they tagged him.
I think they tagged him already.
So like Kevin Zeitler, if he can't get tagged, I would throw all 128 mil at him if that's what it takes.
I mean, Khalil Mack, another guy who's a free agent that could potentially be
an
edge rusher. That's something they need.
Seriously.
Like in order, like Ronnie Stanley, another guy.
Keenan Allen.
Yeah, Keenan Allen, another guy. Like you're gonna like in order because the Patriots are like they have a ton of cap space, but it's hard to spend cap space if nobody wants to play for you. Like, if you're not going to be all that good next season, like they have to pay more money than these players are probably worth. I mean, Josh Sweat, Darius Slay just got cut today, which is kind of surprising to me. I mean, we'll do the Eagles show on Wednesday, but I kind of thought he would be still there after the Super Bowl win, but Hassan Reddick. I mean, you're going to have to spend money in order to really spend money in order to get these players to leave where they're currently located. Wilt Williams, kind of another guy that makes a lot of sense as somebody who comes over for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, so the most money. You should be super aggressive in free agency.
Let's talk about priorities. If you're New England, what should your priorities be this offseason? I mean, number one has to be to reshape this offensive line. Like we cannot go into another season with no offense to the players that are currently on their line. None of these guys should return. So maybe David Andrews is a pretty good center, but like this has to be a total revamp job of their offensive line, which was one of the worst in the league last season.
Yeah, the growth of Drake May is probably priority number 2, and you can't do that unless you address number 1 and more offensive weapons.
And they traded away Matthew Judon. This is one of the worst pass rushing teams in the NFL last season. So you're going to need to get more production out of your defensive line. Maybe bringing back Dietrich Wise is probably a smart move.
Well, here's the thing: like you weren't really doing all that well with Matthew Judon.
Yeah, fair.
So it's really like, is it really that much of? It really wasn't that much of a difference. Like him there, him not there.
So we'll see how they end up playing out for the New England Patriots. Let's switch gears over to the New York Jets. They have the 7th overall pick in this upcoming draft. Notable free agent. I did not put Aaron Rodgers on here just yet because he's not technically a free agent yet. He hasn't been released by the football team. I'm not sure what date that. There's a certain date that they have to release him before. They just haven't done it yet. But we fully expect that Aaron Rodgers will not be a member of the New York Jets by the start of next season. By the end of the month, I would be shocked if he's still on this roster. They have Hassan Reddick as a free agent. At the net, did not work out at all right after they trade for him. DJ Reed, Javon Kinlaw, Tyler Conklin, Morgan Moses, Tyron Smith, whose contract they actually voided to avoid having to pay him any further. Solomon Thomas, who I can't believe is still in the NFL. Dylan Mills, the Green Goblin, Chuck Clark, Tony Adams, Brandon Eccles. They have $24 million with the cap space. Aaron Glenn is the head coach of this football team as he was hired in this cycle. They have a new GM, Darren Muge. That's how I think I was pronounced, or Moogie. I'm going to try to say that again. And then I'm not going to even pronounce it. Jaime Ilhaya is their team president. Let's talk about the Jets. Approach free agency and the draft. I think number one priority has to be who's playing quarterback for this football team next season.
Unless Shedeur Sanders drops to 7.
I did see a mock draft that has him at falling all the way to 30, which there's no way. He falls all the way to 30. And the Browns trade back into the first round and they take him at 30.
Ain't no way in hell.
Yeah,
Who does this? That's bro. That's just like pure hate. That's either pure hate or pure fandom of whatever team you mock
the
that
Browns.
for.
Yeah,
Like yeah, like, that's either pure hate or like that's like insane Browns fandom that you're gonna pass on him at 2 or whatever, and then trade back into the first round and expect him to fully be there at 30. No way in hell. Like let's get that out the way. So if you're the Jets at 7, it's
you're not taking a quarterback at 7. I mean,
it's highly likely that the, the the real game changer here is if the Tennessee Titans take Carter at 1. Like that's the game changer. Like that throws a wrench in everybody's plan. So if Carter goes 1 and Cleveland's at 2, the Giants are at 3. Yeah, like if you're the Jets, you're hoping, you're kind of hoping that's what happens. That that Abdul Carter is the first player called on April 26th. Like that's
even if he is the first player called, there's no way a quarterback falls. Either of those two guys are falling to him at them at 7. The only chance they have of taking a quarterback in the first round is if they trade up. I think this is pipe dream that they're going to get either of those guys at 7 is nonsense. They're going to have to go to free agency and find a guy to be a stopgap, I guess. I mean, there's no one to be the quote unquote stop part, but the gap is there. And if you want to take Jackson, the kid from Ole Miss in the second round, or if you want to take the kid from Quinn Ewers, the kid from Texas, like way later.
I don't know. Jackson Dart had a hell of a combine.
Yeah,
throwing the ball, like throwing wise, he had a hell of a combine. So his draft stock has, to me, increased a bit.
And maybe you're still not taking him at 7, so you're probably looking at a scenario.
No, you're not taking him at 7, but obviously, like hoping and waiting for him to be there at 42.
Yeah, I'm not sure that happens either.
Is a bit of a risk.
I think if you trade back and maybe take him later in the first round, I'm not sure who's chomping at the bit to trade up in this particular NFL draft, depending on how things shake out. But I mean, they number one priority is figure out who the quarterback is going to be for this football team. I don't really understand, other than just get him out of the building, why you wouldn't just keep Aaron Rodgers when there's no plan at quarterback. Like there's no like
out of the building. You just said it.
I know. Other than to get him out of the building, what other benefit do you have by cutting Aaron Rodgers? Like there's still not a quarterback on this roster. Like who's going to play quarterback? Are they going to bring Kirk Cousins gets cut? Is Tyrod Taylor going to be the starter for next season, which he could be?
No. To his credit, you still have Jordan Travis on this roster.
Okay.
Who, by the way, if he doesn't get injured, is not taken in like the 5th or 6th round or whenever he was taken. People talk. David's dying. People talk about Jordan Travis like Florida State wasn't damn near undefeated in his 2 years as a starter. Like they maybe lost 1 or 2 games with Jordan Travis there, and the only reason they were excluded out of the playoff was because he got injured. And then basically like a bulk of the team's best players followed suit. It was like, hey, if it's not the playoff, we're not playing. A bunch of us ain't playing. And then they proceeded to get steamrolled by Georgia.
And yes, they could potentially take that route. They could take Jordan Travis and have him be the starting quarterback and find out what they got in him. Maybe don't even take a quarterback in the first round in this draft, and see if Jordan Travis is the guy. You're not worried about quarterback, and if he's not the guy, you'll learn that pretty quick, and you'll be in the same scenario next season as you are in now. That could be an option for this Jets team. Another scenario that's kind of looming is the Devontae Adams decision. They could eat a bunch of cap money to try to just cut him from the team, or he still has value. They could try to see if they can get for him in the open market, and try to trade him away. I mean, Garrett Wilson, Sauce Gardner, both of those guys are up for extensions. It would be crazy not to give them the money they kind of want. Even though Garrett Wilson seemed unhappy, those rumblings have kind of faded a little bit towards as we got into the offseason.
It's like yeah, and it's entirely possible. Wait, I think with Devontae, first off, you should have never made the move. Shouldn't have made the move. And it's just this franchise is just like just badly like from Woody Johnson on down. Like it's just like this is what we got. This is what you get.
Yahoo.com has their major needs as quarterback, offensive line, and then tight end. And offensive line, Tyron Smith's out the door. Same thing with Morgan Moses. That's your left and right tackle from this most recent season. So you're going to have to – they have them taking at 7 Kelvin Banks Jr., the offensive tackle / guard at Texas, who also had a very good combine. So,
and again, it's not just the Aaron Rodgers signing that didn't work out. Like Tyron Smith, that didn't work. So it's been a pretty severe revolving door at left tackle for them. Offensive line in general, because what's his name, Elijah Vera Tucker, he can't stay healthy.
No.
So
he is good though when he's healthy, but yeah, he can't stay on the football field to save his life.
So like Hassan Reddick was what I know he spent a lot of the season
still holding
out, and it got to the point. And in that situation, that scenario, the team always wins because after you miss a certain amount of games, the team starts to find you.
And they can also freeze your contracts, and so you can never become a free agent. You'll basically never play again in the NFL.
And and you're working with $24 million. So I fully expect none of these dudes to come back just to increase that salary cap. And Aaron Glenn got his work cut out for him, man.
That's for sure. Let's talk top 3 priorities. What are your top 3 priorities for the Jets as they approach the offseason?
Well, you said 1, figure out quarterback.
2, figure out offensive line.
And 3, this may ruffle some feathers, but my third priority for them would be everyone's available. See what the asking price is for everybody. So like if you're Sauce Gardner, if you're Garrett Wilson, if you're Breece Hall or whoever, if I'm this new GM, I'm calling around like, hey, what would it take? Like, what would you want? Like, if I was to put Sauce Gardner on the market, what would you give me? Because we thought this team was a quarterback away, and could not have been like
wrong.
And I know hindsight is 2020, but we could not have been more wrong.
To the Miami Dolphins, who have the 13th overall pick in this upcoming draft. Major free agents. I'm not going to read all of those names because they have a billion players that are free agents. The ones that matter are Javon Holland, who they cut, Robert Jones, Leon Eichenberg, who plays center guard, Calais Campbell, who may retire, first ballot Hall of Famer Calais Campbell, Tyrell Dotson, Kendall Fuller, starting corner, Raheem Mostert, who they cut, Anthony Walker, starting linebacker, Jordan Poyer, starting safety, Tyler Huntley, their backup quarterback. They have $423K in cap space, not million K. Mike McDaniel continues to be the head coach of this football team. Has been okay at that position. Chris Greer, Tom Garfinkel, GM president, respectively. Let's talk about the Dolphins' free agency in the draft. And do you expect Cheetah to be back on this football team next season?
Well, trading him away would free up a lot of cap space, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I would for sure.
I understand he said some stuff at the end of the season that was purely out of frustration. I'm still kind of looking at you sideways, bruh, because that one just out of frustration. That didn't just come out of left field. Um, it's a lot of names. Like, yeah, that's a lot of names for you to be like, yeah, all y'all ain't coming back. I can't go in the free agent see what.
And I started a new rule, right, where I only put the players that have played over 20% of the snaps. All of those players on the list that they're listed there played over 20% of snaps for the
That
Miami Dolphins
also
last
that,
season.
that
All of
also
those names.
that also goes to show you just how beat to hell
Yeah.
this roster was. And we know the Miami, like we know what the Dolphins are. We know what Mike McDaniel is. We know what this team is. We know what this team is with Tua. We know what the team is without Tua. With Tua, with Tua they can win 11, 12 games. They can maybe challenge Buffalo, maybe get a playoff win if it ain't nowhere cold.
I just don't think that this Miami Dolphins team works as constructed. Like
But
I
said maybe. I said maybe.
I
But as currently constructed, to your point, it hasn't worked.
and especially not in the AFC. Like this type of offense that they run does not travel. Like it just doesn't. Like we've
like
seen it over the last.
it's cool in Madden.
Yeah, I
It's
bet.
it's great in Madden because you got a
But
bunch of speed demons
when
out
like
there.
they've gone up against teams that are the upper echelon of the AFC, they lose.
They lose, and they don't just lose, David. They lose
Yeah,
bad.
they get beat. They get the bricks beaten off of them, and so I mean, we're talking about fighting cap space. I mean, their major needs. They still have major needs at offensive line. They have major needs at safety. If they let, well, they've already cut Javon Holland. They don't imagine Jordan Poyer will be back on this football team, and they need to have a legitimate backup quarterback. This cannot be the third season in a row where you're going into the season with nobody who's really proven to back up Tua Tagovailoa, given his injury history, and we just can't have it. You have to have a legitimate backup at this point.
Yeah, David, who you sound like? Oh yeah, me. That bro, you've known me for like I said, well over 10 years. What has been my one of my biggest gripes with NFL teams when the backup don't match the starter.
Yeah, I mean, you have to get a guy who is similar play style. Like Tyler Huntley is a fine NFL player. He's just not going to do what Tua
Tyler,
Tagovailoa does.
Tyler Huntley makes more sense in Baltimore where he was versus down in Miami. It
I
used
mean,
to
not I
hurt.
mean, not even really, but
No, but the play style is similar. Is what I'm getting at. Like Tyler Huntley is a read option guy.
yeah.
Like we know,
Yeah, I
and
mean Tua Tagovailoa is not running anywhere. Like he's a
not
he's a pretty
not like
stationary
that.
quarterback. Not like Lamar Jackson, obviously, but
So
few
like
people can.
to back up my, it used to irk my soul when Cam Newton was on the Panthers. He would get hurt, and then here comes Jimmy Clausen.
Yeah,
Like what?
they're dusting off the scraps of Jake Delhomme.
What are we
Actually,
doing?
I don't know if those two guys ever played together, but
I think Jake Delhomme might have been gone by
he
that.
may have been already retired by the time Cam. I'm an
So,
old man. That's Jake
so
Delhomme.
if you're Miami, uh, again you're looking up like it's Buffalo and the island of the misfit toys, and you got to be tired of being a misfit toy. Like this is Miami, this is Florida, this is no state tax. You
South
should
Beach, baby. South
this is,
Beach.
this is fucking South Beach. You literally should be a marquee destination for everybody. But you have right now you have no money. Can you imagine if Miami had that 128 that New England got to work with?
Yeah. But I mean, that's what happens. I mean, you were aggressive in free agency a few years ago, and you spent a bunch of money, and now you have nothing to show for it. You have not a single playoff win, and this roster is getting older and falling apart. Jalen Ramsey's getting older. I mean, he's still a pretty good player, but like,
And yeah, so like
I mean, Bradley Chubb has been kind of a bust since you traded for him. Teron Armstead hasn't been able to stay healthy either at the offensive tackle position.
and that's what's really disappointing. Like some of the guys that they've traded for the return on investment has not come through. Like I thought Bradley Chubb when they got him and they paired him with
Well, I mean, he's been banged up for most of that tenure in Miami, but
the point is still valid though. Like when you're trading for this guy, you're not expecting him to get banged up. No, don't get me wrong.
I mean, they traded for him while he was banged up, so
and it's like, and I know how fan bases think. They think, oh, this guy's he ain't gonna be that hurt here. He's just he's gonna take a sensu bean and he's gonna be 100% a-okay. And
their current other corner on the other side of Jalen Ramsey on the depth chart is Storm Duck, who was a 6th-round pick last season.
Who was great in college.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong. Like Storm Duck was like, he was one of them running backs in college where it's like, who is this? And then you play them and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, he nice with it. Like Storm Duck was one of those dudes. Like if he went to a Georgia or
he was
Bama,
undrafted. He went to Louisville as a corner.
That's what I'm saying. Like if he went to a Georgia or a Bama, you would for sure knew who the hell he was.
And I mean, they've also had, Jalen Phillips. They took a 1st-round pick on him a couple seasons ago. He has been unable to stay healthy in his first couple seasons in the NFL.
Who's also a monster when he's healthy.
100%. That's the key phrase there, because sometimes your best availability, your best attribute is availability, and that just hasn't been the case for Jalen Phillips or Bradley Chubb at this point of their careers, as their Miami tenures are withering down here. Let's talk about their priorities. What should be their top 3 priorities for Miami before we switch over into Buffalo?
Cap space. Find another way to get cap space. Do whatever it takes to get cap space. Again, see what the asking price is for Tyreek Hill. Hell, Tua too. Fuck you mean? No one's exempt. And priority number 3.
It's still got to be boys to this offensive line.
It's everything, because if Tyreek Hill is out there, but Jalen Waddle isn't, who else are you really worried about? Yeah. I'm a single high Tyreek, and if I lose a game to somebody else on this roster going ape shit, hey, good game.
And I think they found a real gem in Jonnu Smith at the tight end position. So I think he's going to be a guy that they're going to utilize next season, as we get into it. From there, the team that won the AFC East for the last 6 seasons, the Buffalo Bills. They have the 30th overall pick in this upcoming draft. They have a lot of draft capital, actually. I think they have 2 second-round picks. They don't have anything in the 3rd round. I think that's a 4th-round pick, but 2 upcoming picks in the 2nd round. They have some big-time names free agency-wise. Amari Cooper, Rasul Douglas, Mac Hollins, who was very valuable for this football team. Damar Hamlin, Ty Johnson, Dwayne Smoot, who they traded for during the season. They have $29 million worth of cap space. Sean McDermott is still the head coach of this football team. Brandon Beane, Terry Puegula as the team president. Let's talk about thank you. Let's talk about the Bills. How should they approach free agency in the draft? As for many people, they overachieved last season. Many people thought that Buffalo was potentially going into a rebuild, given the loss of the offensive weapons with Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs walking through that door, losing some pieces on your offensive line. But when you have Josh Allen, I guess rebuilding is not really an option. This is a team that's going to feels like it's full steam ahead.
Yeah, so they absolutely overachieved. What they go 12-5?
Yeah.
12-5.
13-4. Sorry,
13-4, and then you dismantle the Detroit Lions the way that you did. Josh Allen, I think how do they won? I said Coop, I said Douglas, Mack, Smoot, and Ty Johnson down, and I asked him, "Hey, what's your asking price? What are you asking for?" Because for the last 3 or 4 years, Buffalo they've been like the quote unquote true America's team. Like everybody wants Buffalo to break that curse, and get over the hump. Like the 30 for 30, the four falls of Buffalo, where how they that time period where they went to four straight Super Bowls, they lost
Yeah.
all four. It's now the eight falls of Buffalo because you had divisional losses, you had AFC Championship losses, divisional losses.
I
It's like,
mean, are you including the Music City Miracle as one of those as well?
was that an AFC Championship?
I don't remember when that happened, but it was because the Titans. No, I think it was in the divisional round. Then the Titans ended up going to the Super Bowl that season, but they ended up, Music City Musical cost them that game.
Yeah, yeah. So like you've had teams with more talent than this one. One of those teams you lost to Joe Burrow at home. The other
Yeah,
one in the divisional. This is after you go to the AFC Championship against Kansas City, and the defense gives up what they did in 13 seconds, and then you lose in OT.
yeah.
Then this year you lose again. It's like, to Buffalo's, well, I ain't gonna say to their credit, but Buffalo has been responsible for two rule changes now in the NFL: the overtime rule, and now they're going to be measuring first downs electronically because Buffalo got screwed again
Well,
on the.
I think I know that like the Buffalo play definitely quickened. I think that rule is coming regardless. So
I mean, like, it may have been, but like you said, like, it was 100%
it
extra.
got accelerated based on that one play. But
And so I with the notable free agents again: Amari Cooper, Rasul Douglas, Matt Collins.
I'm gonna be straight up honest with you. Mari Cooper was not impactful once he got traded to Buffalo. I don't know if it's just because when he got traded there, they just didn't really have time to really mesh and really gel. I'm uncomfortable with letting him walk.
I'm not.
They didn't give up so much draft capital where it's like, well, we gave up too much to let him go. I'm comfortable letting him go. I would rather spend money elsewhere and try to draft even take Matthew Golden in the first round, the kid out of Texas, and draft wide receiver in the draft as opposed to spending any more money on it. I'm not letting Mac Hollins go. That doesn't apply to Mac Hollins. I think he was the most valuable wide receiver the Bills had last season.
No, because like, to me, you can never have enough weapons. Like, I'm 100%.
I'm not going to overpay for Amari Cooper. Like if he wants to come cheap, sure.
That's why, Dave, you're not. I said sit him down and ask and see what he's asking for. Obviously, if what he's asking for is something you can work with, sign him. If it's a little too rich for your blood, then let him walk.
Fair enough.
It's a conversation, David.
I just think he wasn't.
All I'm saying is have a conversation. I'm not saying sign these people. I'm saying have a conversation with them. That's all I'm saying.
I think Ty Johnson you can replace pretty easily in the draft too, Ty Johnson being in the building just means that James Cook doesn't get as many touches that he probably should. Like I never understood why the Buffalo constantly throughout the season would go away from James Cook, who was a good passing running back, and play too much Ty Johnson in my opinion, who's a good football player, but he's not James Cook good.
Well, we saw what James Cook did. Like the guy literally doubled everything. Yeah. Like he
had 20 touchdowns last season. And it could have been even more if he hadn't. For some reason, the Bills decided they were just going to give Ty Johnson touches all the time.
Well, no, and
I'm being a hater. I'm sorry.
And you can. He's a free agent because this was just like because I'm reading this wrong. He just re-signed a 1-year deal. That was last year. So yeah, he's a free agent. No, he's fine. I'm saying I reread it wrong. So like he's a free agent. The date I'm reading was from a year ago. So I don't know. Like I think if you're Buffalo, you kind of have to feel. I ain't gonna say this is it, because as long as you have Josh Allen, you're gonna have a fighting chance. But Sean McDermott, Brandon Bean, that seat got to be kind of warm there.
I think if they were to come up short again, because let's especially in the Brandon Bean aspect, because let's not sit here and pretend like they've drafted extraordinarily well over the last couple of seasons, and they haven't really spent money in free agency all that effectively over the last couple seasons either. I mean, people really praised that Von Miller trade, free agency signing. He's been kind of terrible basically for them. He
Yeah,
probably he may become a cap casualty. A lot of that is because he got injured that first season with Buffalo, but even 2 seasons later, he's become a headache. He's probably going to get cut. They haven't drafted all that well either. I mean, some of the decisions that they've made on like Keon Coleman probably had a fine rookie season, but Xavier Worthy was better. Kyer Elam was a first round pick of this football team. Just been just kind of a disaster in the NFL. Even Dalton Kincaid, who had a really solid rookie season, didn't take that step forward that many people expected in year number 2. This is a team that hasn't drafted well, and because they haven't drafted well, they've had to spend money in free agency, and they haven't spent that money well, which led to them having to cut a bunch of their players and trade away Stephon Diggs this most recent offseason. So if it's not Sean McDermott, I think Brandon Beane, that seat under hot Brandon Beane, it's got to be getting awfully piping hot.
Well, like the whole Keon Coleman thing, like I also wasn't Xavier Worthy drafted before him?
Well, no, Buffalo traded with Kansas City in order to facilitate that. So Buffalo could have just stayed pat and just taken Xavier Worthy, but instead they traded back with Kansas City, which gave Kansas City the opportunity to take Xavier Worthy. So
I think hindsight is obviously 2020 with all of that.
I mean, really, literally, when you talk about the NFL draft, all you really talk about is hindsight.
Hindsight, yeah.
Because it's all hindsight. Every aspect of every part of it.
I think weapon wise, I think they're fine. I don't say they're fine. Obviously, again, you can never have too many, but maybe they had a mindset of we have our version of Xavier Worthy already, and his name is Khalil Shakir.
Yeah, and he was really effective in this. Those reasons.
So, I'm not saying that's what they said. I'm saying this is my thought process in why they took a Keon Coleman versus an Xavier Worthy in that spot.
But just talking about we're talking about the other things they need to address. I mean, the secondary, especially if Rasul Douglas goes away or leaves, even if he doesn't leave. I mean, Christian Benford, who was on concussion protocol, probably shouldn't even have played in the game against Kansas City.
Yeah, that was dangerous.
Yeah, Teron Johnson has been fine as a pro. He's a solid nickel corner. They need another corner on the other side, on the left side. And then Taylor Rapp, if he stays healthy. Damar Hamlin was pretty good last season as a free safety. They could use help in the secondary. And then they could use help getting some pressure under the quarterback. I still think they could use another edge rusher, especially if you try to decide to part ways with Von Miller.
And Smoot. So if you let Smoot walk out the door,
I think they're going to let that. Yeah, he wasn't particularly good for them. 1.5 sacks last year.
If you let Smoot walk out the door, your edges are AJ Epinesa, Gregory Rousseau, and Javon Solomon. That's just an edge. To be fair to the defense, Matt Milano has been a stud for them.
Yeah, but he's been banged up the last 2 years in a row.
Jordan Phillips has been decent for them. Terrell Bernard has been solid for them, but you're also asking Terrell Bernard to do probably more than what he's capable of by having him fill in for Matt Milano. Like Matt Milano is, I want to say he's their Mike. Like he's the signal caller.
I think Terrell Bernard is actually their signal caller right now. It was the majority of last season. I think when Matt Milano came back from that pec injury or whatever it was, bicep something of that nature, I'm pretty sure Terrell Bernard still did all the signals at middle linebacker.
And I like Cole Bishop.
They don't have any depth at linebacker though. Huh?
No. And I like Cole Bishop, who they got out of Utah a couple years ago. And Cole Bishop was rookie, and I like that. So if Damar Hamlin is not brought back, Cole Bishop should be more than capable enough of sliding in. Top three priorities.
Uh,
My priority number one, real talk, is if I'm Josh Allen. Hey man, this MVP season wasn't no fluke. You, do you hear what's being said about, not by the media, of course, because the media would get crucified if they ever said this about Josh Allen. But do you see what's said on social media about this MVP that Josh
no.
Allen got?
But is it Joel Embiid of the MVP?
Absolutely, it's a pity MVP.
I have heard that. Yeah.
Like they feel like it was a here damn, like that, like you've been asking for a here damn, like that's how they classify Josh Allen's MVP, because statistically the guy in Baltimore was better than you. He was first in everything, minus the
Record.
minus the record, but. And Bengals fans, I know Joe Burrow was technically first and everything, but Joe Burrow won 6 games. I'm exaggerating, but not really. Shut up. Like, ain't no MVP is gonna, no quarterback.
He didn't make the playoffs. You're not winning the MVP if you didn't make the playoffs.
Not winning the MVP.
This isn't a baseball where the Angels could be absolute trash and Mike Trout still win 3 MVPs.
Somehow.
Could not sniff the playoffs any of those seasons.
So yeah, Lamar Jackson had a better season than Josh Allen. So if I'm Josh Allen, my priority, as long as it doesn't hurt the team, of course, is to prove that the MVP season was not a fluke. And I will let motherfuckers know every chance I got in the post game, because again, social media age, they see everything. I hate when players lie and say, "Oh, I don't pay attention to this or that." Yes, you do. Yeah, you do. You see it. Even when you try to block it, guess what? You still see it. Like, you see it. Priority number 2, edge. You said it. Get more edge presence, because the more times Josh Allen is on the field, helps your team versus when he's not on it. And priority
and then the secondary has to be addressed as well. It's priority number 3. Yahoo has Matthew Golden as potentially their pick at 30, the wide receiver out of Texas. I like it, especially if Amari Cooper walks out the door.
Yeah, especially.
But
Christian got? Christian has them taking a DT out of Ohio State. He has Matthew Golden going to Baltimore at 27. That's why.
That's a solid pick. But this has been our 2025 NFL offseason preview series. This time we swung into the AFC East. That leaves us with just 2 divisions left: the runner-up in the Super Bowl and the winning Super Bowl team division. The AFC West will be tomorrow, and the NFC East will be on Wednesday. So keep an eye out for all that content. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. My name is David On Point Huffman. Right there is my co-host, Mr. T.J. Hopkins. And TJ, what do we do here at the Prime, my friend?
We bring the heat and we go to the gym. I went to the gym already. Don't go to the gym this late. No, go to the gym. If your gym is open this late, go.
Yeah, definitely go.
Always.
But I'll be back to the gym tomorrow. I had a bunch of life stuff to deal with today. So anyways.
So is your car going to be ready for pickup tomorrow?
That's what I'm hoping for. So yeah, it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing, TJ. It's super frustrating right now. We'll be back here tomorrow breaking down the AFC West. Don't want to miss any of that content. Please like, share, subscribe to the podcast. Y'all have a good night. Here's a message from our sponsor.
Throw some Monday Night Raw on your TV.
I'm going to, man. Watch some Netflix. Even though I don't think John Cena's going to be on it. He's not supposed to come back until mid-March. So
what?
I hate that too. We'll be back. Here's the Huddle Sports Network. See you guys all tomorrow. Y'all have a good night and stay safe out there. Peace out, TJ.
See you.
Welcome to the Huddle Sports Network, where we're breaking boundaries and redefining podcasting. Broadcasting live on 6 different platforms, we're bringing you the latest in sports like never before. Imagine tuning into real-time discussions, expert analyses, and fan interactions all at your fingertips. Each platform offers a unique experience, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch. We're not just sharing stories, we're creating a community of passionate sports enthusiasts. Join us as we dive deep into the evolution of podcasting, where every episode is a chance to engage, debate, and celebrate the world of sports. This is where your voice matters and the game never stops. Welcome to the Huddle Sports Network, where we're breaking boundaries and redefining podcasting. Broadcasting live on 6 different platforms, we're bringing you the latest in sports like never before, where sports passion meets podcasting brilliance. I'm Mike, the Bear fan, and alongside Bill, the Packer fan, and our buddy Ken Catalone, we're bringing you an incredible lineup of 38 diverse podcasters. Each one brings their unique flavor to the table, covering everything from game analysis to behind-the-scenes stories. Imagine diving deep into the minds of experts who live and breathe football, sharing insights that you won't find anywhere else.